At a luxurious dinner, a businessman celebrates the merger of his company and his engagement to a seemingly perfect partner. Out of nowhere, a poor girl bursts into the hall and shouts, "Sir, she put something in your ice cream." With his heart racing, he discreetly switches his glass with his fiancée's and waits. 2 minutes later, something happens, and nothing will ever be the same again. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The elegant chandelier of the suite finale, Manhattan's most exclusive dessert restaurant, cast a golden glow over the celebration below. Ethan Matthews, CEO of Matthews Industries, stood at the center of attention, his confident smile barely concealing the triumph he felt. Tonight marked the pinnacle of his career, the merger between Matthews Industries and Reynolds Corporation, creating what would soon become America's most powerful business conglomerate. To new beginnings, Ethan raised his crystal champagne flute, his deep blue eyes scanning the room filled with shareholders, executives, and carefully selected members of the press. The crowd echoed his toast, the clink of glasses creating a symphony of success. At his side stood Vanessa Reynolds, daughter of Richard Reynolds and now Ethan's fiancée. Her elegant black dress complemented her striking features, sharp cheekbones, piercing green eyes, and dark hair cascading over her shoulders. Their engagement, announced just 3 weeks ago, represented more than love. It was the perfect union of power, ambition, and corporate strategy. "You've outdone yourself," Vanessa whispered, her red-painted lips curving into a smile as she squeezed his hand. "Father is impressed, and that's no small feat." Richard Reynolds, a titan of industry in his own right, approached them with 2 members of the board. As Ethan engaged in conversation about projected growth and market expansion, he couldn't help but feel that everything had fallen perfectly into place. At 42, he had achieved what most men could only dream of: wealth, power, respect, and a beautiful, equally ambitious partner. "The dessert course is being served," announced the maitre d', gesturing toward the waitstaff, who entered with trays of the restaurant's signature creation, the Ambition Parfait, a complex layering of raspberry sorbet, vanilla bean cream, and crushed pistachios topped with gold leaf. As the guests took their seats, Ethan noticed a commotion near the entrance. A security guard was attempting to stop someone, a small figure that moved with determination through the crowd. Ethan frowned, his attention momentarily diverted from the conversation around him. It was a young girl, no more than 12 years old, with tangled blonde hair and wearing clothes that were visibly worn and dirty. Her presence in this exclusive gathering was jarring, like finding a dandelion in a rose garden. How had she managed to get past security? "Sir," the security guard called out, hurrying after the girl, "I'm sorry about this interruption." But the girl had already reached Ethan's table. Her blue eyes, startlingly clear despite her disheveled appearance, locked with his. There was an urgency in her gaze that made him pause. "I need to tell you something," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the restaurant's ambient noise. She glanced nervously at Vanessa, then back at him. "It's important." Before the security guard could pull her away, she leaned closer to Ethan. "They put something in your dessert," she whispered. "The lady in the kitchen said it would make you really sick." Ethan stared at the girl, confusion and disbelief washing over him. The security guard had reached them now, his hand firmly but gently gripping the girl's shoulder. "I'm sorry, Mr. Matthews. We'll remove her immediately." "Wait," Ethan said, his instincts kicking in despite the absurdity of the situation. He looked at the Ambition Parfait placed before him, then at Vanessa, who was engaged in conversation with a fashion journalist, seemingly unaware of the interruption. It was ridiculous, of course. The girl was obviously confused, possibly looking for attention or money, and yet... "It's fine," Ethan told the guard. "Let her go." "Sir, are you sure? We can call social services." "I said it's fine," Ethan repeated more firmly. The guard released the girl, who remained rooted to the spot, her eyes now fixed on the dessert in front of Ethan. As conversations resumed around him, Ethan felt a strange uneasiness take root. The girl's warning echoed in his mind. He glanced at Vanessa, noting how she kept checking her watch, something she did when anxious. Was it just the pressure of the event, or something else? In a moment of impulse disguised as affection, Ethan reached over. "You must try mine, darling," he said smoothly, switching his dessert with Vanessa's in a gesture that appeared loving to onlookers. "The chef always gives me the best presentation." Vanessa smiled, though Ethan thought he detected a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. "How thoughtful," she said, lifting her spoon to taste the parfait that had been placed in front of Ethan just moments ago. The girl was still standing there, watching. Ethan gave her a subtle nod, and she backed away, disappearing into the crowd before the security could approach her again. 10 minutes later, the elegant celebration descended into chaos. Vanessa suddenly clutched at her throat, her face flushing red as she struggled to breathe. "My allergies," she gasped, reaching for her purse. "My EpiPen." Richard Reynolds was at his daughter's side instantly. "She's having an allergic reaction," he shouted. "Call an ambulance." Ethan watched in shock as Vanessa was attended to by a doctor who happened to be among the guests. The EpiPen was administered, but her reaction was severe enough that she needed to be taken to the hospital immediately. As paramedics arrived and Vanessa was placed on a stretcher, her eyes met Ethan's. There was something in her gaze, confusion, pain, but also something else he couldn't quite identify. Fear, anger, whatever it was, it sent a chill down his spine. "I'll go with her," Richard said, his face pale with concern. "Ethan, can you handle things here?" Ethan nodded mechanically, his mind racing. As the crowd of guests murmured in concern, he slipped away from the main dining area, instructing the restaurant manager to offer complimentary champagne and extend apologies for the disruption. In a quiet corridor, he pulled out his phone and called Dr. Samuel Wilson, his personal physician. "Sam, I need information. Vanessa just had a severe allergic reaction to something in her dessert at the sweet finale. Possibly pistachios, but her reaction seems extreme even for that." Dr. Wilson's voice was calm on the other end. "She's allergic to pistachios? I wasn't aware. Has she had reactions before?" "That's just it," Ethan replied, lowering his voice. "She's not allergic to pistachios. We had pistachio gelato on our trip to Italy last month. She was fine." There was a pause on the line. "That's unusual. Where was she taken?" "New York Presbyterian, I believe. I'll make some calls, see what I can find out. In the meantime, Ethan, be careful." As Ethan hung up, he leaned against the wall, his mind swirling with the implications of what had just happened. The girl's warning, Vanessa's unexpected reaction, the dessert that was meant for him. He needed to find that girl. The night air was cool against Ethan's face as he stepped out of the restaurant's side entrance. The sounds of Manhattan nightlife, car horns, distant music, the constant hum of the city, provided a stark contrast to the controlled elegance of the sweet finale. Security guards stood at attention, clearly embarrassed by the breach that had allowed the girl to enter. "Did you see where she went?" Ethan asked one of them, a tall man with a shaved head who had been positioned near the kitchen entrance. "The homeless girl." The guard shook his head. "She slipped away during the commotion. Do you want us to search for her, sir?" Ethan hesitated. What would he say if they found her? That he believed the wild warning of a street child? That he suspected his fiancée might have tried to... What exactly? He shook his head. "No, that won't be necessary. Just make sure the press doesn't get wind of this incident. The official story is that Ms. Reynolds had an unexpected allergic reaction. Nothing more." The guard nodded, relieved not to be reprimanded for the security breach. Ethan made his way back inside to address the remaining guests, assuring them that Vanessa was receiving excellent care and that the celebration of their corporate merger would continue another day. With practiced charm, he thanked them for coming and personally saw off key investors and board members. It was nearly midnight by the time Ethan's driver brought his Tesla Model S around to the front of the restaurant. As he slid into the back seat, Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from Richard Reynolds. "Vanessa stable. Staying overnight for observation. We'll call tomorrow." The message was brief, almost cold. Ethan wondered if Richard suspected anything, or if the terseness simply reflected his concern for his daughter. Either way, Ethan had decisions to make. If his suspicions were correct, if Vanessa had indeed tried to harm him, he needed evidence, not wild theories based on a street child's warning. "Take me home, Marcus," he instructed his driver, then changed his mind. "Actually, drive around the block first." Slowly. As the car glided through the streets surrounding the sweet finale, Ethan scanned the sidewalks and alleys, searching for any sign of the blonde girl. 3 blocks from the restaurant, he spotted her. Or rather, them. The girl was huddled in a recessed doorway with a younger boy, both sharing what appeared to be a thin blanket. "Stop the car," Ethan commanded. Marcus pulled over immediately. "Should I come with you, sir?" the driver asked, his hand already reaching for his door handle. "No, stay here. Keep the engine running." Ethan approached the doorway cautiously, aware that he, in his tailored Tom Ford suit and Italian leather shoes, must appear as out of place in their world as the girl had in his. The children tensed as he drew near, the girl pushing the boy behind her protectively. "You were right," Ethan said simply, stopping a few feet away from them. "About the dessert." The girl's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Is the lady okay?" Ethan nodded. "She's in the hospital, but she'll recover." He studied the girl's face, noting the intelligence in her eyes despite her circumstances. "How did you know about the dessert?" The girl hesitated, glancing at the boy, her brother Ethan assumed, before answering. "I was looking for food in the alley behind the restaurant. The kitchen has a window. I heard the lady talking to someone on the phone while she was messing with the desserts. She said something about making sure you got the special one with the extra ingredient." "Which lady? One of the kitchen staff?" She shook her head. "The one in the fancy dress. The one who got sick instead of you." Ethan felt his blood run cold. Vanessa had visited the kitchen earlier in the evening, supposedly to thank the chef personally for accommodating their last-minute reservation. He had thought it a gracious gesture at the time. "What's your name?" he asked the girl. "Lily," she answered after a moment. "And this is my brother, Noah." The boy peered at Ethan with wide, fearful eyes, his small hand clutching his sister's worn jacket. "How old are you?" "I'm 12, Noah's 8. Ethan looked around the deserted street, then back at the children. Their situation was desperate, that much was clear, and they had potentially saved his life or at least prevented a serious medical emergency. "Where are your parents?" he asked, already suspecting the answer. Lily's jaw tightened. "Gone. It's just us now." Ethan made a decision then, one that would alter the course of multiple lives. "I have a proposition for you both. I have a guest house on my property in Greenwich. You can stay there tonight, get cleaned up, have a proper meal. In return, I'd like to hear more about what you saw and heard at the restaurant." Suspicion flashed across Lily's face. "Why should we trust you?" It was a fair question. "Because I just discovered that my fiancé might have tried to harm me, and you're the only witness. Because I have more empty rooms in my house than I know what to do with. And because it's going to rain tonight, and that doorway won't keep you dry." He gestured to the darkening sky above. "Also, I'm guessing you both could use a meal that doesn't come from a dumpster." Lily studied him for a long moment, her young face showing a maturity beyond her years. Finally, she nodded. "One night, and we stay together." "Of course," Ethan agreed. "My driver is parked just there. The car has heated seats and there's water and snacks inside." The journey to Ethan's Greenwich estate was silent and tense. The children sat close together on the leather back seat, accepting the bottles of water Ethan offered, but refusing the protein bars. They stared wide-eyed as the car passed through the security gates of Ethan's property and followed the winding driveway to the main house, a modern mansion of glass and stone that gleamed under strategic landscape lighting. Marcus helped them inside, and Ethan's housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, was summoned despite the late hour. To her credit, she took one look at the disheveled children and immediately went into action, preparing rooms in the guest house and gathering clean clothes and toiletries. "The guest house has 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a small kitchen," Ethan explained, as he led them across the manicured lawn. "Mrs. Chen will bring you some clothes and food. There's a security system, but it will be disabled from the inside. You're not prisoners. The main house is just there if you need anything." The guest house was a miniature version of the main residence, with the same modern aesthetic, but on a cozier scale. Lily and Noah stood in the entryway, clearly overwhelmed by the sudden change in their circumstances. "Why are you doing this?" Lily asked bluntly as Mrs. Chen bustled around, setting out sandwiches and fruit on the kitchen counter. Ethan considered the question. "Let's just say I believe in repaying debts. Get some rest. We'll talk more in the morning." Back in the main house, Ethan poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon and sat in his home office, the events of the evening replaying in his mind. He accessed his home computer and pulled up the security camera feeds from around his property, ensuring that his unexpected guests were settled. On one screen, he could see Lily and Noah in the guest house kitchen, cautiously eating the sandwiches Mrs. Chen had prepared. His phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Wilson. Spoke to colleague at Presbyterian. Blood work shows unusual compound alongside allergic reaction. Not life-threatening, but concerning. We'll know more tomorrow. Ethan stared at the message, a cold anger building inside him. If Vanessa had indeed tried to harm him, why? What could she possibly gain? The merger was already approved, the contracts signed. Their engagement had been her idea as much as his, a logical culmination of their 2-year relationship. He pulled up his calendar and noted that Vanessa had scheduled an appointment with their lawyer just last week to discuss changes to his will. At the time, he had thought nothing of it, just practical planning for their future together. Now it seemed ominous. His gaze drifted back to the security feed showing the guest house. The lights were still on, and he could see Lily sitting on the edge of a bed, talking to Noah, who was already under the covers. She was stroking his hair, her posture protective even in this safe environment. Something about the scene stirred an unfamiliar emotion in Ethan. These children had nothing, yet they had each other. He had everything: wealth, power, success. Yet tonight had revealed how precarious his position might be, how those closest to him might not be what they seemed. He picked up his phone and sent a text to his head of security. Need complete background check on Vanessa Reynolds. Priority level, immediate. Absolute discretion essential. Then he sent another message to his private investigator. New assignment. Need information on 2 children, approximately ages 12 and 8. Names Lily and Noah, likely homeless in Manhattan area near the Sweet Finale restaurant. Find out everything. Where they came from, how long they've been on the streets, any living relatives. Ethan took another sip of bourbon, his gaze returning to the security feed. The lights in the guest house had gone out. Tomorrow, he would begin unraveling the truth about Vanessa, about the children, and about the web of deception that seemed to surround him. Morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ethan's home office, illuminating the papers spread across his desk. He had slept little, spending most of the night reviewing documents related to the merger and his personal affairs. His laptop displayed medical records he had accessed through a private portal. His own medical history, including noted allergies and health conditions. The house phone rang, and Mrs. Chen's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Matthews, Mr. Reynolds is at the gate. Ethan checked his watch, 7:30 a.m., early for a social call, especially given the events of the previous night. Let him in. Minutes later, Richard Reynolds strode into the office, looking every bit the powerful executive despite the circumstances. At 62, he maintained the physique of a man 15 years younger, his silver hair perfectly styled, his posture commanding. Ethan, he said, accepting the offered cup of coffee from Mrs. Chen. Vanessa is asking for you. Ethan studied his future father-in-law's face, searching for any sign of knowledge or complicity. How is she? Stable. The doctors say she can be released this afternoon. Richard took a seat across from Ethan. They're calling it a severe allergic reaction to pistachios, exacerbated by some kind of unusual compound in the dessert. The restaurant is being investigated. Unusual compound? Ethan repeated, keeping his tone neutral. Richard waved a dismissive hand. Some culinary experiment gone wrong, apparently. The chef is mortified. He leaned forward. Ethan, I came because Vanessa is distraught. She keeps saying she needs to explain something to you. What does she need to explain? She wouldn't tell me. Richard sighed. You know how she gets. Secretive, dramatic. But she was quite insistent that I bring you to the hospital. Ethan nodded slowly. I'll go, but first, Richard, I need to ask you something. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Has Vanessa seemed different to you lately? Stressed? Secretive? A flicker of something, concern, wariness, crossed Richard's face. The merger has been stressful for all of us, and planning a wedding on top of that. He shrugged. Why do you ask? Just concerned, Ethan replied smoothly. Last night was quite a shock. Before Richard could respond, Ethan's phone buzzed with a text. It was from his head of security. Preliminary findings on VR ready. Significant concerns. Call ASAP. I need to make a quick call before we leave, Ethan said, standing. Help yourself to more coffee. I'll just be a moment. In the adjacent bathroom, Ethan closed the door and called his security chief. "What did you find?" "Sir, Ms. Reynolds has been accessing your private medical records through the executive health portal multiple times over the past 3 weeks. She also made several calls to a biochemistry laboratory in Switzerland, and there are substantial wire transfers to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands." Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. "Anything else?" "Yes, sir. 2 days ago, she accessed the main server at Matthews Industries and downloaded confidential files related to the merger, including contingency plans in case of your incapacitation." "Keep digging," Ethan instructed, "and send everything you have to my secure email." When he returned to the office, Richard was standing by the window, gazing out at the property. "Beautiful place you have here, Ethan. Vanessa mentioned you're thinking of selling after the wedding." Ethan kept his expression neutral. "We've discussed various options." He grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. "Shall we go? I'm eager to see Vanessa." As they walked toward the front door, movement from the guest house caught Richard's attention. "You have visitors?" Ethan followed his gaze to see Lily stepping out onto the small porch, clutching a mug of what was likely hot chocolate, given Mrs. Chen's motherly tendencies. "Just some distant relatives' children staying for a few days," he lied smoothly. "Family emergency." Richard nodded, seemingly satisfied with the explanation, and they proceeded to his waiting car. The drive to New York Presbyterian Hospital was filled with discussion about the merger. Market projections, board reactions, press coverage, business as usual. As if Vanessa wasn't lying in a hospital bed after what Ethan was increasingly convinced was a botched attempt to harm him. At the hospital, they found Vanessa in a private room, looking pale but composed, in a silk robe she had undoubtedly sent her assistant to retrieve from her apartment. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and despite the circumstances, she had applied minimal makeup. "Ethan," she said, her voice slightly hoarse. Her eyes darted to her father. "Dad, could you give us a moment?" Richard hesitated, then nodded. "I'll get some coffee." He squeezed his daughter's hand before leaving the room. Once alone, Vanessa's composed facade cracked slightly. "Ethan, I need to explain about last night." "I'm listening," he said, remaining standing rather than taking the chair beside her bed. "The dessert. It wasn't supposed to happen like that." Her green eyes filled with tears. "I had the chef prepare something special for our celebration. I wanted to surprise you. With pistachios, which you know are listed in my medical records as a mild allergen." A flash of surprise crossed her face. "No, of course not. I specifically told them no pistachios because of your allergy. There must have been a mix-up in the kitchen." Ethan studied her, noting the slight tremble in her hands, the way her eyes couldn't quite meet his. "A mix-up that nearly sent you into anaphylactic shock. Quite a coincidence." "What are you implying?" Vanessa's voice hardened. "I'm not implying anything. I'm asking what really happened." Vanessa's expression shifted, a calculated vulnerability replacing the defensive posture. "Ethan, I'm the victim here. I ended up in the hospital, and instead of concern, I'm getting an interrogation." She reached for his hand. "Whatever you think happened, you're wrong. I love you. We're building an empire together." The word choice struck Ethan as odd. Empire, not life or future. He withdrew his hand. "Rest, Vanessa. We'll talk more when you're feeling better." As he turned to leave, she called after him, her voice suddenly sharp. "Ethan, wait, there's something else. Who was that girl at the restaurant? The one who approached our table?" Ethan paused at the door. "Just a confused child who got past security. Why do you ask?" "She seemed to be whispering something to you." "What did she say?" "Nothing important," Ethan replied, studying Vanessa's face. "Just asking for money, I assume." Vanessa's eyes narrowed slightly. "You switched our desserts after she spoke to you." So she had noticed. Ethan forced a casual shrug. "I thought you might prefer the presentation of mine. It had more gold leaf." Before she could respond, he left the room, passing Richard in the hallway. "She's all yours," he said. "I have an urgent matter at the office." Back in his car, Ethan directed his driver to take him to Vanessa's Upper East Side apartment rather than the office. He had a key. They had exchanged them 6 months into their relationship, a symbol of trust and commitment. Now he would use that trust to search for answers. Vanessa's apartment was a showcase of expensive taste, minimalist furniture, abstract art, and strategic splashes of color against predominantly white walls. Ethan moved methodically through the space, searching for anything unusual. In her home office, he found nothing out of the ordinary on her desk or in the visible files. Her laptop was password protected, but he knew her usual patterns: birth date, favorite vacation spot, mother's maiden name. None worked. He was about to give up when he noticed that the custom bookshelf along one wall was slightly uneven. Pressing against different sections, he discovered a hidden compartment containing a second laptop and a small safe. The laptop, surprisingly, had no password protection. Opening it revealed a series of encrypted communications with scientists from various international laboratories, discussions of compound formulations, and payment records. Most disturbing were the detailed notes on his medical history, including highlighted passages about his mild pistachio allergy and how it could be amplified by certain chemical compounds to create symptoms that would mimic a heart condition. Ethan photographed the screen with his phone, then tried the safe. It required a 4-digit code. After several attempts using significant dates, he tried the number that Vanessa always claimed was lucky for her: 7294. The safe clicked open. Inside was a flash drive, a small vial of clear liquid, and documents outlining a revised company succession plan that would transfer controlling interest of the merged companies to Vanessa in the event of Ethan's incapacitation or inability to fulfill executive duties. As he photographed these items as well, Ethan's phone rang. It was Mrs. Chen. "Mr. Matthews, the children are asking for you. The girl Lily says she has more information about last night. She seems anxious." "Tell her I'll be home within the hour," Ethan replied, carefully returning everything to its place in the hidden compartment. As he closed the apartment door behind him, his phone buzzed with a text from his private investigator. "Information on the children found. Foster system records located. Parents deceased in apartment fire 3 months ago. Children fled foster placement due to reported abuse. No other living relatives identified." Ethan stared at the message, a plan forming in his mind. These children had saved him from whatever scheme Vanessa had been orchestrating. Perhaps it was time to return the favor in a more permanent way. Ethan's Greenwich estate looked different in daylight, less imposing, more serene. As his car pulled through the gates, he noticed Lily and Noah in the garden with Mrs. Chen, who appeared to be showing them how to harvest vegetables from her meticulously maintained kitchen garden. Noah was laughing, a sound so unexpected and pure that Ethan found himself slowing his pace as he approached. Mrs. Chen spotted him first. "Mr. Matthews, just in time for lunch. The children have been helping me prepare a feast." Noah froze at the sight of Ethan, his smile disappearing as he edged closer to Lily. The girl straightened, her defensive posture returning despite the basket of tomatoes in her hands. "You said you'd be back earlier," she said, accusation in her voice. "I had some unexpected business," Ethan replied, then addressed Mrs. Chen. "Could you finish up here? I need to speak with Lily privately." In his home office, Ethan offered Lily a seat in one of the leather armchairs. She perched on the edge, her eyes darting around the room, taking in the expensive furniture, the wall of awards, the view of the manicured grounds. "Mrs. Chen said you have more information about what happened at the restaurant," Ethan began. Lily nodded. "I didn't tell you everything last night. I was scared." "What else did you hear?" "The lady, your girlfriend, she was on the phone in the kitchen. She said something about making sure the special ingredient would only activate when combined with the pistachios." Lily's brow furrowed as she tried to recall the exact words. "She said it would look like a heart problem, not poison." Ethan's blood ran cold. "You're sure about this?" "The exact words." "I'm sure. I remember because it was weird. Who talks about activating ingredients like it's some kind of science experiment?" And then she told whoever was on the phone that after you were gone, she would be in control of everything. The confirmation of his suspicions should have angered Ethan, but instead he felt a strange calm descend. "Thank you for telling me this, Lily. You've been very brave." She shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "What happens now to us, I mean?" "I've been making some inquiries," Ethan said carefully. "I know about the fire, about your parents, and about why you ran from your foster placement." Lily's face hardened. "We're not going back. Noah finally stopped having nightmares. If you try to send us back—" "I'm not sending you anywhere," Ethan interrupted. "At least not back there. I have a proposition for you both." He outlined his idea. The children would stay in the guest house temporarily while he arranged for proper legal guardianship. He had connections, influence, resources that could expedite the process. In return, Lily would need to be willing to tell authorities what she had witnessed if it became necessary. "Why would you do this?" Lily asked, suspicion evident in her voice. "You don't even know us." Ethan considered the question. "Let's just say I recognize an opportunity to right some wrongs. You saved me from a situation I didn't even know I was in. I'd like to return the favor." "And what about her? Your girlfriend?" "Fiancé," Ethan corrected automatically, then amended. "Ex-fiancé. Soon enough. Don't worry about Vanessa. I'll handle that situation." Lily studied him for a long moment, her young face showing wisdom beyond her years. "Noah needs stability. He needs to feel safe." "And you? What do you need, Lily?" The question seemed to surprise her. "No one's asked me that before." She thought for a moment. "I need to know Noah will be okay. And I need to go back to school someday." Ethan nodded. "I think we can arrange both of those things." After Lily left to rejoin her brother in the garden, Ethan made a series of calls to his lawyer, to a child welfare specialist with whom he had worked on charity initiatives, to a security firm that specialized in personal protection. By the time he joined the children and Mrs. Chen for lunch on the patio, he had set multiple wheels in motion. The meal was surprisingly pleasant. Mrs. Chen had prepared a simple feast of garden vegetables, freshly baked bread, and grilled chicken. Noah remained quiet, but seemed less frightened, occasionally glancing at Ethan with curious eyes rather than fearful ones. After lunch, Ethan received a call from Richard Reynolds. "Vanessa's been released from the hospital. She's at her apartment resting," Richard informed him. "She's been asking about you." "I've been tied up with work," Ethan replied, watching through the window as Mrs. Chen showed the children how to feed the koi in the garden pond. "The merger hasn't paused just because of last night's incident." "Of course," Richard agreed. "But perhaps you could stop by this evening. It would mean a lot to her." Ethan hesitated. "Actually, Richard, I was hoping you could come by my office tomorrow morning. There are some concerns about the merger that we need to discuss privately." "Concerns? What kind of concerns?" Richard's voice sharpened. "Nothing that can't be resolved," Ethan assured him smoothly, "but it's better discussed in person." After ending the call, Ethan sent a text to Vanessa. "Still dealing with merger fallout. We'll call tomorrow. Rest well." Her reply came immediately. "I need to see you tonight. It's important. Please, Ethan. I love you." He didn't respond, instead turning his attention to the secure email from his head of security. The evidence was damning. Vanessa had not only accessed his medical records, but had also been in contact with a biochemist specializing in compounds that could trigger or enhance allergic reactions. Financial records showed payments to this specialist from one of Vanessa's offshore accounts. Most disturbing was the amendment to Ethan's will that had been drafted, but not yet signed, giving Vanessa controlling interest in his company holdings should he become incapacitated. The amendment had been drafted by a lawyer Ethan had never met, using paperwork that contained his forged signature. As evening fell, Ethan joined the children for dinner, a more formal affair in the dining room, with Mrs. Chen insisting on proper place settings despite the unusual circumstances. Noah had warmed up enough to ask questions about the large aquarium that dominated one wall of the dining room, and Ethan found himself explaining the various tropical fish species with a patience he hadn't known he possessed. After dinner, as Mrs. Chen was showing the children to the guest house, Ethan's doorbell rang. Security alerted him immediately. "Ms. Reynolds at the gate, sir." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Let her in." Vanessa arrived in a flurry of expensive perfume and nervous energy, still pale from her hospital stay, but immaculately dressed in a designer outfit that managed to suggest both vulnerability and sophistication. "Ethan," she said, reaching for him, "why haven't you returned my calls? I've been so worried." He stepped back, avoiding her embrace. "Come into the office. We need to talk." Once the door was closed, Vanessa's demeanor shifted slightly. "What's going on? You're acting strange." "I think we both know why," Ethan replied, maintaining a distance between them. "I know about the plan, Vanessa. The special ingredient in the dessert, the amendments to my will, the offshore accounts." Her face paled further, but she quickly recovered. "What are you talking about? I've been in the hospital fighting for my life after an allergic reaction, and you're accusing me of... What exactly? I'm not accusing you of anything yet, Ethan said calmly. I'm simply stating facts. Facts that I'm prepared to share with the proper authorities, unless we can come to an agreement. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. What kind of agreement? You'll resign from your position at Reynolds Corporation, effective immediately. You'll withdraw from all involvement in the merger. You'll sign a legally binding document relinquishing any claim to Matthews Industries or its subsidiaries. Ethan's voice was cold, businesslike. In return, I won't press charges or make this public. You can keep your reputation intact. You're insane, Vanessa hissed. I don't know what you think you know, but you have no proof of anything. It would be your word against mine. And half of New York society saw me carried out of that restaurant on a stretcher. Her voice softened, became pleading. Ethan, please, I think you had some kind of breakdown. The stress of the merger, the engagement, it's been too much. Let me help you. I have witnesses, Ethan said, and evidence, quite a lot of it actually. Witnesses? Vanessa's eyes widened slightly. You mean that street urchin from the restaurant? No one would believe a homeless child over me. The contempt in her voice made Ethan's decision even easier. You should leave now, Vanessa. My lawyer will be in touch tomorrow with the paperwork. I suggest you sign it. This isn't over, she said, her voice low and dangerous. You have no idea what you're doing. As security escorted her from the property, Ethan watched from his office window. The woman he had planned to marry, the woman he had trusted with his business and his future, had just revealed her true self. And it was uglier than he could have imagined. His phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Chen. The little boy is having nightmares. He's asking for you. Ethan frowned at the message, unsure why Noah would ask for him specifically. Nevertheless, he made his way to the guest house, where he found Lily sitting beside her brother's bed, stroking his hair as tears streamed down the boy's face. He had a bad dream, Lily explained, her own eyes red from crying. About the fire? Noah looked up at Ethan, his small face contorted with fear and grief. Are you going to make us leave? He asked in a small voice. Ethan sat down on the edge of the bed. No, Noah, you can stay here as long as you need to. Promise? The boy whispered. I promise, Ethan replied, surprising himself with how much he meant it. The Matthews Industries executive boardroom fell silent as Ethan finished speaking. Richard Reynolds sat at the opposite end of the table, his face ashen, the folder of evidence Ethan had provided open before him. This can't be true, Richard said finally, his voice hollow. Vanessa wouldn't, she couldn't. I'm sorry, Richard, Ethan replied, genuinely sympathetic despite everything. But the evidence is irrefutable. Your daughter planned to incapacitate me and take control of both our companies. Richard closed the folder, his hands trembling slightly. What happens now? That depends on you, Ethan said. I have no desire to make this public. The scandal would damage both our companies and destroy what we've built with this merger. What do you propose? Vanessa resigns from Reynolds Corporation immediately. She receives no shares or positions in the merged company. She signs confidentiality agreements and legal waivers. Ethan paused. In return, there will be no criminal charges, no public exposure. She can save face, say she's pursuing other opportunities. Richard nodded slowly. And the merger? Proceeds as planned with amended leadership structure. You remain as chairman emeritus, I as CEO. Ethan leaned forward. I don't blame you for any of this, Richard. I believe you had no knowledge of Vanessa's plans. The older man's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you for that, at least. He rubbed his temples. I'll speak to Vanessa, make her understand that this is her best option. As Richard gathered his things to leave, Ethan added, One more thing. I've recently become guardian to 2 children who are in a difficult situation. They'll be staying with me for the foreseeable future. Richard looked up, surprised. Guardian? You've never mentioned wanting children. It was an unexpected development, but one I'm committed to. After Richard left, Ethan sat alone in the boardroom, staring out at the Manhattan skyline. The past few days had shifted his world on its axis. The woman he thought he knew had revealed herself as a calculating would-be criminal. 2 homeless children had shown him more loyalty than his fiancée of 2 years. And he, Ethan Matthews, known throughout the business world for his strategic mind and emotional detachment, was now responsible for the well-being of a traumatized 8-year-old boy and his fiercely protective 12-year-old sister. His phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Chen. Children in school interviews today. Noah very nervous. Lily pretending not to be. Ethan smiled despite himself. In the week since the children had come into his life, he had set numerous wheels in motion. Legal guardianship proceedings, enrollment in an exclusive private school, therapy appointments, complete wardrobes, even bedroom redecoration for the guest house, which was rapidly becoming a permanent residence. He texted back, "Tell them I'll be home for dinner. We'll celebrate regardless of how the interviews went." As he was leaving the office, his assistant caught him at the elevator. "Mr. Matthews, Miss Reynolds is in the lobby. She's demanding to see you." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Security?" "On alert, sir. She's being vocal." "I'll handle it," Ethan said, stepping into the elevator. In the lobby of Matthews Tower, Vanessa stood near the security desk, her posture rigid with anger. She wore dark sunglasses despite the indoor setting, and her normally perfect appearance showed signs of strain. Hair slightly disheveled, makeup too heavy, as if applied in haste. "Ms. Reynolds," Ethan said coolly as he approached. "This is unexpected." "Is it?" she hissed. "You destroy my life, my career, turn my own father against me, and don't expect me to respond?" Ethan gestured to a small conference room off the lobby. "Let's not do this here." Once inside, Vanessa removed her sunglasses, revealing red-rimmed eyes. "How dare you present my father with that fabricated evidence? You've manipulated this entire situation." "The evidence isn't fabricated, Vanessa. You know that." "What I know is that you've systematically undermined me since the moment we met," she spat, "using me to get closer to my father's company, pretending to love me while planning to sideline me all along." Ethan studied her with clinical detachment. "Is that really what you believe? Or is it what you're telling yourself to justify your own actions?" "My actions?" Vanessa laughed bitterly. "What about yours? Suddenly playing house with those street rats who crashed our engagement dinner. What's that about, Ethan? Some kind of image rehabilitation?" "The ruthless CEO with a heart of gold." Ethan's voice hardened. "Don't speak about those children again, not ever." Something in his tone made Vanessa pause. "My God," she said slowly, "you actually care about them. The great Ethan Matthews, brought low by a pair of orphans." Her lips curved in a cruel smile. "How pathetic." "We're done here," Ethan said, moving toward the door. "Your father has the paperwork. I suggest you sign it before my patience runs out." "And if I don't?" Vanessa challenged. "What will you do, Ethan? Destroy your own reputation along with mine? Release evidence that your fiancé tried to poison you? The press would have a field day. They'd dig into every aspect of your life, including your newfound family." "Sign the papers, Vanessa. Walk away with your dignity and freedom intact. That's the best offer you're going to get." Back at the Greenwich estate that evening, Ethan found the atmosphere unexpectedly festive. Mrs. Chen had prepared a special dinner, and the dining room was decorated with balloons and a banner that read, "Congratulations, Mr. Matthews." Noah ran to him as he entered, excitement overcoming his usual shyness. "We got in, both of us." Lily hung back, but her small smile betrayed her own satisfaction. "The headmaster said Noah's math skills are advanced for his age," she reported, "and I qualified for the science honors track." "That's excellent news," Ethan said, genuinely pleased. "I knew you would impress them." Mrs. Chen appeared from the kitchen, beaming. "I made all their favorites to celebrate, and chocolate cake for dessert." Dinner was a surprisingly relaxed affair. Noah chatted about the science lab he had seen at the school and the robotics program he hoped to join. Lily spoke less but listened intently, occasionally adding details or gently correcting her brother's more enthusiastic exaggerations. Watching them, Ethan realized how quickly they had begun to adapt to their new circumstances, and how quickly he had adapted to their presence in his life. The large house, once a showcase of his success, but rarely actually lived in, now felt more like a home. After dinner, as the children helped Mrs. Chen clear the dishes, a chore they insisted on despite her protests, Ethan's phone rang. It was Richard Reynolds. "It's done," Richard said without preamble. "Vanessa signed the agreements. She's leaving for Europe tonight. A sabbatical is the official story." "Thank you, Richard. I know this wasn't easy." "No, it wasn't." The older man sounded exhausted. But she left me no choice. The evidence, it was incontrovertible. My own daughter. His voice broke slightly. I never thought... I'm sorry it came to this, Ethan said, meaning it. She asked me to give you a message, Richard continued. She said, this isn't over. I think it would be wise to take that as more than just angry words, Ethan. Vanessa has never handled defeat well. After ending the call, Ethan found himself standing in the doorway of the kitchen, watching as Mrs. Chen taught the children how to make homemade ice cream to accompany the chocolate cake. Noah was laughing as he turned the hand crank of the old-fashioned ice cream maker, while Lily carefully measured vanilla extract. The scene struck Ethan as incongruous with the conversation he had just had. This warmth and simple joy existing in the same world as Vanessa's cold calculation and threats. For a moment, he considered the potential danger, wondering if he had made a mistake bringing the children into his complicated life. But then Noah looked up, spotted him, and called out, "Ethan, come help! My arms are getting tired." And just like that, the decision was made. He would protect these children not just from their past, but from any threats that might emerge from his own. He joined them in the kitchen, taking over the ice cream crank from Noah's tired arms. Later that night, after the children had gone to bed in the guest house, Ethan sat in his home office, reviewing the final details of the guardianship paperwork his lawyer had prepared. The process was being expedited due to his connections and resources, but there were still interviews to be conducted, home studies to be completed, background checks to be verified. As he signed the preliminary forms, Ethan reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. 2 weeks ago, he had been on the verge of marriage and the completion of the biggest business merger of his career. His life had seemed set on a predictable, ambitious course. Now his engagement was over, his ex-fiancée had left the country after attempting to harm him, and he was in the process of becoming the legal guardian of 2 orphaned children who had been living on the streets. It should have felt like chaos, like his carefully constructed life was spinning out of control. Instead, as he glanced at the security feed showing the peaceful guest house where Lily and Noah slept, Ethan felt something unfamiliar, a sense of purpose that went beyond business success or financial achievement. For the first time in as long as he could remember, Ethan Matthews was building something that couldn't be measured in stock prices or market share. And despite the complications, despite Vanessa's parting threat, he found himself looking forward to what came next. 3 months passed with remarkable swiftness. Autumn painted the Greenwich estate in brilliant reds and golds, and the guest house had undergone a complete transformation. No longer simply a temporary shelter, it had become a proper home, with bedrooms personalized to each child's preferences, space-themed decor, and bookshelves filled with science texts for Noah, and a more sophisticated blue and silver color scheme with an art desk and easel for Lily, who had revealed a talent for painting. The legal guardianship had been finalized with surprising ease, thanks to Ethan's influence and resources. The children were thriving at Westfield Academy, with Noah excelling in mathematics and robotics, while Lily had found her place on the debate team and in advanced science courses. On this particular Saturday morning, Ethan sat at the kitchen island in the main house, reviewing quarterly reports while waiting for the children to wake up. These weekend mornings had become a ritual, breakfast together, followed by whatever activities the day might bring. Sometimes museum visits in the city, sometimes simple walks around the property, sometimes just quiet hours of reading or playing board games. Mrs. Chen entered with a fresh pot of coffee. "The children are still sleeping," she reported with a smile. "They were up late working on their science project." Ethan nodded, setting aside his tablet. "Let them rest. We have nothing scheduled until Noah's soccer game this afternoon." The domestic tranquility of the scene would have been unrecognizable to anyone who knew Ethan before the children came into his life. The ruthless CEO who worked 18-hour days and rarely spent time at his Greenwich estate had been replaced by a man who attended parent-teacher conferences, helped with homework, and had rearranged his entire schedule to ensure he was home for dinner most nights. His phone buzzed with a text from his head of security. "Activity on VR's accounts. She's returned to the country, currently in NYC. Surveillance in place as requested." Ethan frowned. Vanessa had been in Europe for months, maintaining a low profile as agreed in their settlement. Her return to New York was unexpected and concerning, especially given her parting threat. Before he could respond, another text arrived, this one from an unknown number. I see you've been playing Happy Families. Touching. We should talk. The Peninsula, 2 p.m. There was no signature, but it could only be from Vanessa. Ethan's jaw tightened as he considered his options. Meeting with her was risky, but ignoring her could be even more dangerous. If she was determined to cause trouble, better to know her intentions directly. He texted his security team. Need detail for meeting at the Peninsula, 2 p.m. today. Full coverage, discreet. Noah's soccer game was at 4 p.m., which would give him time for the meeting and still allow him to make the game, something he had promised Noah he wouldn't miss. When the children finally appeared for breakfast, tousled from sleep but excited about their weekend plans, Ethan made no mention of Vanessa's return or the upcoming meeting. Instead, he listened as they explained their science project, an elaborate model of sustainable urban design that combined Noah's engineering interests with Lily's environmental concerns. We're going to win first prize, Noah declared confidently, maple syrup dripping from his chin as he devoured Mrs. Chen's pancakes. Lily rolled her eyes but smiled indulgently at her brother. Maybe, if we finish the water recycling component today. We'll work on it after Noah's game, Ethan promised, but I have a meeting in the city this afternoon, so Marcus will drive you to soccer, Noah. I'll meet you there. Both children accepted this without question, accustomed now to the occasional intrusions of Ethan's business life into their new routine. The Peninsula Hotel exuded quiet luxury, its lobby a study in understated elegance. Ethan arrived 15 minutes early, allowing his security team time to secure the location and confirm Vanessa's presence. She had reserved a private dining room off the main restaurant, an intimate space with views of Fifth Avenue below. She was already seated when Ethan entered, looking every inch the polished executive in a tailored black suit, her dark hair cut in a sleek bob that was new since he'd last seen her. She smiled as he approached, a practiced expression that didn't reach her eyes. "Ethan," she said, gesturing to the seat across from her, "thank you for coming." "What do you want, Vanessa?" he asked, remaining standing. "I have a soccer game to attend." Her eyebrow arched in amusement. "Soccer? My, how domesticated you've become. Please sit. This won't take long." Reluctantly, Ethan took the offered seat. A waiter appeared immediately with champagne, but Ethan waved it away, requesting water instead. "I've been doing a lot of thinking during my time away," Vanessa began, taking a sip of champagne. "About us, about what happened, about the future. There is no us, Vanessa. And what happened was that you tried to harm me to gain control of my company. The future is that you stay away from me and my family, as agreed." "Family?" she repeated, her tone mocking. "Those street children you've taken in? How charitable of you, Ethan. The press must love it, the ruthless CEO with a heart of gold, just as I predicted." "I haven't publicized the guardianship," Ethan said coldly, "and I won't warn you again about speaking of them." Vanessa studied him for a moment, then her expression shifted, becoming more calculated. "I didn't come here to argue. I came to propose a solution that benefits us both." "I'm listening." "I've been offered a position with Takeda International, you know, the Japanese conglomerate that's been trying to break into the American market for years." She leaned forward. "They're very interested in acquiring certain assets from our merger, assets that, with my insider knowledge, could be very valuable to them." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "That sounds like corporate espionage, Vanessa, and a violation of the non-disclosure agreement you signed." "Or," she countered smoothly, "it could be a legitimate business opportunity. Takeda is prepared to make a very generous offer for those assets, one that would significantly increase shareholder value. All I need is your endorsement as CEO to bring the proposal to the board. And what do you get out of this arrangement? A fresh start, a position as Takeda's American division president, and," she paused, her gaze direct, "an agreement to permanently end any unpleasantness between us." The implication was clear: cooperate or face whatever consequences she had planned. Ethan considered her offer, recognizing it for what it was, a power play disguised as a business proposal, and possibly a trap. "Send the proposal to my office," he said finally. "I'll review it with the board. But Vanessa," he added, standing to leave, "if this is another scheme or if you come anywhere near my family, the evidence I have against you goes public, non-disclosure agreement or not." Her smile remained fixed, but a flash of anger crossed her eyes. I'll have the proposal delivered Monday morning, and Ethan, good luck at the soccer game. Children can be so unpredictable, can't they? The subtle threat made Ethan's blood run cold, but he maintained his composure as he left the dining room, immediately texting his security team. Increase surveillance on the children. Consider the threat level elevated. By the time Ethan arrived at Westfield Academy's soccer field, the game was already underway. Noah's team, the Westfield Warriors, were easily identifiable in their blue and white uniforms. He spotted Noah on the field, his small face intense with concentration as he dribbled the ball down the sideline. Lily sat in the bleachers, chatting with a classmate but keeping a watchful eye on her brother. She spotted Ethan first, waving him over with a smile that still surprised him with its warmth, a marked change from the wary, defensive girl he had first met. "You made it," she said, as he took a seat beside her. "Noah scored already. His first goal ever." "I'm sorry I missed it," Ethan said, genuinely disappointed. "It's okay. I recorded it on your phone." Lily handed him his spare phone, the one he had given her for emergencies. He was so excited, he did a little dance afterward. Ethan smiled as he watched the video, but his mind was still partially occupied with Vanessa's threat. He scanned the crowd of parents and students, looking for anything out of place, anyone who didn't belong. "Is everything okay?" Lily asked, her perceptiveness, honed by years of survival on the streets, picking up on his tension. "Everything's fine," Ethan assured her, forcing himself to relax. "Just a complicated meeting." Lily studied him with those two wise eyes. Was it about her, the lady from the restaurant? Ethan had never explicitly told the children about Vanessa or what had happened, but Lily was too intelligent not to have pieced things together from overheard conversations and her own observations. "Yes," he admitted, seeing no point in lying. "But it's nothing for you to worry about." "Is she going to cause trouble?" Lily's voice was quiet but determined. "Because if she tries to hurt you again or take us away, no one is taking you away," Ethan interrupted firmly. "You and Noah are staying with me, period. The guardianship is legal and binding." Before Lily could respond, a cheer erupted from the crowd. On the field, Noah had scored again, his face lit with joy as his teammates surrounded him in celebration. He looked to the bleachers, found Ethan and Lily, and gave an exuberant wave. In that moment, watching Noah's happiness and feeling Lily's trust beside him, Ethan made a decision. Vanessa Reynolds and her threats, whether business or personal, would not be allowed to disrupt the life he was building with these children. Whatever her proposal entailed, whatever scheme she was planning, he would counter it, not just as the CEO protecting his company, but as a guardian protecting his family. After the game, a victory for the Warriors, Noah ran to Ethan, still flushed with excitement. "Did you see? 2 goals. Coach says I might be team captain next season. I saw the second one live and Lily showed me the video of your first," Ethan said, finding himself pulled into a hug by the exuberant 8-year-old. These physical displays of affection were still new and sometimes awkward for Ethan, but he was learning to return them naturally. "You were excellent out there." As they walked to the car, Noah chattering about the game and Lily occasionally interjecting with her own observations, Ethan felt a resolve solidify within him. The happiness he had found with these children, unexpected, unplanned, but undeniably real, was worth protecting at any cost. Back at the estate, as the children worked on their science project in the guest house, Ethan made a series of calls from his office to his lawyer, to his head of security, to key members of his board. By the time dinner was served, he had implemented the first phase of a plan to neutralize whatever threat Vanessa might pose, both to his company and to his newfound family. The next morning, as the children slept in after their busy Saturday, Ethan received another text from the unknown number. "Proposal being delivered tomorrow. Consider carefully, Ethan. Some things once broken can never be repaired." He deleted the message without responding, then joined the children for their Sunday breakfast ritual, determined not to let Vanessa's shadow fall over the life they were building together. The proposal from Takeda International arrived at Ethan's office Monday morning as promised, a thick folder of legal documents and financial projections delivered by courier. His executive assistant placed it on his desk with a questioning look, but Ethan merely nodded his thanks, waiting until she left before opening it. The contents were exactly as he had suspected, a carefully constructed Trojan horse. On the surface, it appeared to be a legitimate offer to purchase certain technology assets from the Matthews-Reynolds conglomerate at a premium price. But embedded within the complex deal structure were clauses that would effectively give Takeda, and by extension Vanessa, access to proprietary technology and client data that went far beyond the stated acquisition targets. More concerning were the personnel provisions buried in the appendices, requirements that key Matthews Industries engineers and developers would transfer to Takeda as part of the deal, essentially gutting the R&D department that had been the backbone of Ethan's company for years. Ethan closed the folder and picked up his phone. "Get me Richard Reynolds," he instructed his assistant. 20 minutes later, Richard arrived, looking older than his years. The past months had taken a toll on him. The scandal with Vanessa had been contained publicly, but privately, the knowledge of what his daughter had attempted had changed him. "She's back," Ethan said without preamble, pushing the Takeda proposal across the desk. Richard sighed heavily as he took the folder. "I know. She called me yesterday, said she was in town for a business opportunity." He began scanning the documents, his frown deepening as he read. "This is predatory." "It's more than that," Ethan replied. "It's her attempting to dismantle what we've built, piece by piece." He leaned forward. "Richard, I need to know where you stand on this." The older man looked up, his gaze steady despite the pain evident in his eyes. "With you, Ethan. Whatever she's become, whatever she's done, I can't support it. The merger was the right decision for both our companies and I stand by it." Ethan nodded, relief washing over him. He had been prepared for Richard to side with his daughter, despite everything. "Thank you. In that case, I have a counter-proposal." For the next hour, they discussed strategy, how to respond to Takeda's offer, how to protect the company from Vanessa's influence, how to secure their shared legacy. By the time Richard left, they had a solid plan in place, one that would not only deflect Vanessa's attack but strengthen their position in the market. As Ethan was preparing to leave the office that evening, his phone rang with a call from Mrs. Chen. "Mr. Matthews," she said, her voice unusually urgent, "there was a woman at the school today asking questions about the children. She spoke to Noah's teacher, claiming to be from Child Services." Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. "What did she look like?" "I wasn't there," Mrs. Chen replied. "Lily told me when I picked them up. She said the woman had short, dark hair and was very well dressed. Noah didn't see her. Where are the children now?" "At home with me. Lily is concerned, but I told her you would handle it." "I'm on my way," Ethan said, already signaling for his driver. "Stay inside. Keep the security system armed. I'll be there in 30 minutes. During the drive to Greenwich, Ethan made a flurry of calls. To his security team, to his lawyer, to the headmaster of Westfield Academy. By the time he arrived at the estate, he had confirmed that a woman matching Vanessa's description had indeed visited the school, presenting credentials that appeared legitimate, but were, upon closer inspection, falsified. The children were in the main house kitchen with Mrs. Chen when Ethan arrived, Noah happily helping bake cookies while Lily sat at the island, her homework spread before her, but her attention clearly elsewhere. "Ethan," Noah exclaimed when he spotted him, flour dusting his cheeks. "We're making chocolate chip cookies. Want to help?" "In a minute, buddy," Ethan replied, setting his briefcase down. "Lily, can we talk privately?" The girl nodded, following him to his office with a serious expression that made her look far older than 12. Once the door was closed, she spoke before he could. "It was her, wasn't it? The woman from the restaurant? The one who tried to hurt you?" Ethan studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, I believe it was. What exactly did she say to you?" "She didn't talk to me directly," Lily explained. "She was speaking to Mrs. Harrington, Noah's teacher, saying she needed information for some kind of review of our case. I recognized her from pictures I've seen in your office, from news articles online. So I went to the office and told Principal Davis that there was a strange woman asking about us, and he went to check her credentials." "You did exactly the right thing," Ethan assured her. "But Lily, I need you to tell me the truth. Has anyone else approached you or Noah? Phone calls, messages, anything unusual at all?" Lily hesitated, then reached into her backpack and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "This was in my locker last week. I didn't want to worry you." Ethan unfolded the note, which contained a typed message. "Are you sure you're safe? Do you know who he really is, what he's capable of? Cold anger flooded through him as he read the words. Why didn't you show me this immediately? Because it's stupid, Lily said with unexpected vehemence. I know who you are. You saved us when no one else would. You gave us a home, put us in school, made sure Noah got therapy for his nightmares. Her eyes blazed with loyalty. Some anonymous note isn't going to change that. Ethan was momentarily taken aback by her fierce defense. Lily, this is serious. Vanessa is disturbed. She feels I took something from her and she wants to hurt me in return. By using us, Lily concluded flatly. That's what this is about, isn't it? She knows you care about us, so she's trying to mess that up. It appears that way, Ethan admitted, which is why we need to be extra careful. New rules, starting today. You and Noah don't go anywhere without security. No exceptions. If anyone approaches you at school, anyone at all that you don't know, you find a teacher immediately. And you tell me about any other notes or strange occurrences, no matter how small they seem. Lily nodded solemnly. What about Noah? Should we tell him? Ethan considered the question. Noah was finally thriving. His nightmares had decreased. He was making friends. His natural intelligence was flourishing in the academic environment. Burdening him with this situation seemed cruel. Not yet, Ethan decided. Let's protect him from this for as long as we can. But you need to watch out for him, Lily. If you see anything unusual, anyone suspicious near him, I always watch out for Noah, she interrupted, her voice steady. Ever since the fire. That's not going to change. Looking at her determined young face, Ethan felt a surge of pride mixed with concern. I know you do, and I'm going to make sure both of you stay safe. When they returned to the kitchen, Noah was proudly arranging freshly baked cookies on a cooling rack, oblivious to the tension in the adults around him. Try one, Ethan. I made them extra chocolatey. Ethan accepted a cookie, forcing a smile as he bit into it. Delicious, he said, ruffling Noah's hair. Maybe the best cookie I've ever had. That night, after the children had returned to the guest house and Mrs. Chen had retired to her own quarters, Ethan made a decision that had been forming in his mind since he received the Takeda proposal. He called his real estate agent. Sandra, it's Ethan Matthews. I need you to find me a property, something outside the city, secure, private, a place where a family could disappear for a while if necessary. The next morning, Ethan convened an emergency board meeting at Matthews Industries. The boardroom was tense as he outlined the situation with Takeda International and his concerns about Vanessa's involvement. We have two options, he concluded. We can fight this battle in the boardroom and potentially in the courts, which will be time-consuming and could damage shareholder value. Or, he paused, making eye contact with each board member, we can take a more proactive approach. Richard Reynolds, seated to Ethan's right, spoke up. Ethan has developed a counter-strategy that I fully endorse. It's bold, but I believe it's the right move for our company. For the next hour, Ethan presented his plan, a complete restructuring of the Matthews-Reynolds conglomerate that would effectively make Vanessa's proposed deal with Takeda impossible. It involved creating a new holding company, transferring key assets to protect them, and a strategic partnership with a European tech giant that would strengthen their market position while diluting Vanessa's potential influence. This is unprecedented, said one board member, a veteran investor who had been with Matthews Industries from the beginning. But I have to admit, it's genius. Vanessa wouldn't be able to touch us. What about the personal aspect? Asked another director, a shrewd woman who had known Ethan for years. You mentioned concerns about your wards, the children you've taken in. How does this protect them? Ethan straightened. I'm handling that separately. Their safety is my primary concern, but I assure you it won't affect my leadership of this company. After the board voted unanimously to proceed with Ethan's plan, Richard stayed behind as the others filed out. This goes beyond business for you now, doesn't it? He asked quietly. It has to, Ethan replied. She's targeting the children, Richard. That crosses a line I can't ignore. The older man nodded sadly. I raised her to be ambitious, to fight for what she wanted. But this... He shook his head. This isn't the daughter I thought I knew. People can surprise us, Ethan said, thinking not just of Vanessa's betrayal, but of his own unexpected transformation into a guardian, a protector, a parental figure, for better or worse. What will you do about the children? Richard asked. If she's determined to use them against you, whatever it takes to keep them safe, Ethan interrupted. "They've been through enough already. I won't let Vanessa add to their trauma." As Ethan left the boardroom, his phone buzzed with a text from the unknown number. Vanessa again. "I see the board meeting went long. Did you explain my proposal? Or are you planning something foolish? Remember, Ethan, I know all your weaknesses now." He didn't respond, instead calling his head of security. "I want the surveillance on Vanessa doubled. I need to know everywhere she goes, everyone she talks to. And I want the estate security upgraded immediately. New protocols, additional personnel. No one gets near those children without my explicit approval." That evening, as Ethan helped the children with their homework in the guest house living room, he found himself watching them with a new intensity. Noah sprawled on the floor with his math workbook, Lily at the table with her science textbook, both so vulnerable yet so resilient. "Ethan," Noah's voice broke through his thoughts, "can you help me with this problem? It's about percentages." As Ethan knelt beside the boy explaining the concept of calculating discounts, he made a silent promise. Whatever Vanessa was planning, whatever threat she posed, he would not allow her to disrupt the fragile happiness they had built together. The children had already lost too much. He wouldn't let them lose their new home, their new life, their new family, not without a fight. The Matthews Foundation for Children in Crisis held its inaugural gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art on a crisp December evening, 6 months after Ethan had taken Lily and Noah into his home. The event, which had quickly become the most coveted invitation of the winter social season, represented a dramatic shift in Ethan's public profile, from a notoriously private businessman to the founder of a high-profile charitable organization dedicated to helping children who had lost their parents or faced other traumatic circumstances. Ethan stood at the entrance of the Temple of Denda, greeting donors and celebrities who had come to support the foundation. He wore a custom tuxedo, looking every inch the successful CEO, but those who knew him well could see the changes in him, a softening around the eyes, a genuine warmth in his smile that had been absent before. "Quite a turnout," remarked Richard Reynolds, who had become a staunch ally in both business and personal matters. "You've transformed more than just your life, Ethan. You're changing the whole conversation around foster care and children's services." Ethan nodded, scanning the elegant crowd. "It's a start. The system failed Lily and Noah at every turn. If my resources can help prevent that from happening to other children, it's worth every penny and every minute." The foundation, established with an initial $50 million donation from Ethan personally, focused on 3 key areas: improving foster care oversight and quality, providing therapeutic services for children who had experienced trauma, and creating educational opportunities for disadvantaged youth. It had already partnered with major universities, hospitals, and social service organizations across the country. "Have you heard anything from Vanessa?" Richard asked quietly, his expression pained as always when discussing his daughter. "Not since the board approved the restructuring," Ethan replied. "The Takeda deal fell apart when they realized they couldn't get what she promised them. My security team reports she's still in the city, but she's been keeping a low profile." What Ethan didn't mention was the continued surveillance, the increased security measures at the estate and at Westfield Academy, the new property he had purchased, a secluded compound in Vermont where the children could be moved at a moment's notice if necessary. Vanessa's silence was concerning rather than reassuring. A predator was most dangerous when quiet. "Mr. Matthews!" Noah's excited voice cut through the sophisticated murmur of the gala. The boy, dressed in a miniature tuxedo that matched Ethan's, bounded over with Lily following at a more measured pace in an elegant blue dress that complemented her eyes. "The governor just told me I should run for office someday. Can you believe it?" Ethan laughed, the sound surprising even himself with its ease. "I can absolutely believe it, Noah. You'd make an excellent politician." Lily rolled her eyes fondly at her brother's enthusiasm. "He's been networking like a pro all night. I think he's collected more business cards than you have." The children had insisted on attending the gala, despite Ethan's initial reluctance to expose them to such a public event. "It's our foundation too," Lily had argued, displaying the determination that had kept her and Noah alive on the streets. "We should be there to represent all the kids like us." Now watching them move confidently among New York's elite, Noah charming everyone with his exuberance, Lily impressing philanthropists and policymakers with her articulate perspectives on foster care reform, Ethan felt a pride that transcended anything he had experienced in his business career. As the evening progressed, Ethan was called to the podium to deliver his speech. The grand room fell silent as he stepped up to the microphone. Hundreds of influential faces turned toward him expectantly. 6 months ago, he began, my life changed in a way I could never have anticipated. I met 2 extraordinary children who showed me a world I had been blind to. A world where the systems we've built to protect our most vulnerable citizens are failing them daily. He paused, finding Lily and Noah in the crowd, standing with Mrs. Chen, who had become as much a part of their family as anyone. These children taught me that true wealth isn't measured in stock portfolios or corporate mergers. It's measured in the strength of our connections to one another, in our capacity to care for those who need us most. His voice grew stronger, more passionate. The Matthews Foundation was born from that lesson, from the recognition that we, all of us in this room tonight, have the power and the responsibility to create change. As applause filled the room at the conclusion of his speech, Ethan noticed a disturbance near one of the side entrances. His security team was converging on someone, and his heart rate spiked as he scanned the crowd for Lily and Noah. They were still with Mrs. Chen, safely surrounded by Foundation staff. Excusing himself from the well-wishers who had approached the podium, Ethan made his way to the security team where he found his head of security, Jackson, restraining a woman in an elegant black gown. Vanessa, let me go, she was demanding, her voice carrying despite the music and conversation. I have every right to be here. I was invited. Jackson looked to Ethan for direction. She had an invitation, sir, legitimate as far as we can tell. It's fine, Ethan said calmly. Ms. Reynolds and I can have a civilized conversation. Let her go. As the security team reluctantly released her, Vanessa straightened her dress, her composure returning instantly. Quite the spectacle you've created, Ethan. The press is eating it up. The heartless businessman transformed by 2 orphans. Her tone was mocking, but Ethan detected something else beneath it. Envy, perhaps, or regret. What do you want, Vanessa? He asked quietly. Haven't you done enough damage? Damage, she repeated, her eyes flashing. You destroyed my career, turned my father against me, and stole my future. And now you're, what, a children's advocate? The patron saint of lost causes? She gestured toward the gala. This entire charade is just another business strategy. Admit it. Ethan studied her, seeing beyond the bitterness to the wounded, desperate woman beneath. You're wrong, he said simply. About all of it. What I found with those children isn't strategy, it's family. Something I never had. Something I never even knew I wanted until they showed me what it could be. How touching, Vanessa sneered, but her voice wavered slightly. And what happens when you get bored of playing daddy? When the novelty wears off, you'll discard them just like you discarded me. Is that really how you see what happened between us? Ethan asked, genuinely curious. I discarded you? Not that you tried to incapacitate me to take control of my company? Vanessa's gaze darted around the room, noting the curious glances they were attracting. This isn't the place for this conversation. No, Ethan agreed. It isn't. In fact, there is no place for this conversation, Vanessa, because we have nothing left to say to each other. The restructuring is complete. There's nothing left for you to target at Matthews Industries. The evidence of what you attempted is secured with multiple parties, to be released if anything happens to me or the children. You've lost. It's time to accept that and move on. For a moment, Vanessa's mask slipped completely, revealing the raw pain and rage beneath. You think you've won? You think this is over? I will never— Mom? Noah's voice cut through Vanessa's rising tirade. He had approached without either of them noticing, his young face confused as he looked between Ethan and Vanessa. Is everything okay? The word, Mom, hung in the air between them, its simple power diffusing the tension instantly. It was the first time Noah had used it, had claimed Ethan as more than just a guardian or protector. Vanessa stared at the boy, then at Ethan, something shifting in her expression. Without another word, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd with a dignity that, despite everything, Ethan had to admire. Who was that lady? Noah asked, watching her go. She looked upset. Ethan placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. Just someone I used to know. Nothing to worry about. He smiled down at Noah. Did you just call me Dad? Noah shuffled his feet, suddenly shy. Is that okay? Lily said I should ask first, but it just kind of came out. It's more than okay, Ethan assured him, his voice thick with emotion. "It's perfect." Later that night, as the gala wound down and the last guest departed, Ethan found himself standing with Lily on the museum steps, waiting for their car. Noah had already fallen asleep in Mrs. Chen's lap inside, the excitement of the evening finally catching up to him. "Do you think she'll really leave us alone now?" Lily asked quietly, her perceptiveness once again surprising Ethan. "That woman, your ex." Ethan sighed, putting an arm around Lily's shoulders. "I think so. Sometimes people need to see what they've lost before they can move on." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "Noah called you Dad tonight. I heard him." "He did," Ethan confirmed. "How do you feel about that?" She was quiet for a moment, watching the city lights. "I'm not ready for that yet," she said finally. "I still remember my dad. His voice, his laugh. It doesn't feel right to replace him." "You don't have to," Ethan assured her. "Whatever you want to call me is fine. Guardian Ethan, annoying guy who makes you do your homework. It doesn't change what we are to each other." A small smile tugged at Lily's lips. "A family." "Exactly," Ethan agreed. "A family." The next morning, as snow began to fall over the Greenwich estate, Ethan received a final text from Vanessa's number. "Congratulations on your new family. Take care of them. I won't be bothering you again." Attached was a forwarded email showing her acceptance of a position with a technology firm in Singapore. Effective immediately, Ethan deleted the message without responding, then joined the children in the kitchen, where Mrs. Chen was teaching them how to make her famous raspberry and pistachio ice cream, a dessert that had once been associated with betrayal and danger, now transformed into a symbol of shared joy. Noah was enthusiastically turning the old-fashioned ice cream maker, while Lily carefully measured vanilla extract, just as they had that first night months ago. But now, instead of wary, traumatized children in borrowed clothes, they were confident, healing, and securely attached to their new home and family. "Dad, come help," Noah called, his arms tiring from cranking the ice cream maker. "This thing is heavy." As Ethan took over the cranking, Lily slipped her hand into his free one, a rare gesture of affection from the still reserved girl. "I was thinking," she said casually, "maybe I could call you Ethan Dad, like a combination. Would that be weird?" Ethan squeezed her hand gently, his heart full. "Not weird at all, I'd be honored." Later that afternoon, as they all sat on the patio despite the cold, eating ice cream and watching the snow blanket the garden, Ethan marveled at the journey that had brought them to this moment. 6 months ago, he had been